ज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुर्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। युगाचार्य प्रभुं वन्दे नारायण करुणालयम् राधादास्य लोभं दत्त्वा तारयति भुवनत्रयम्। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। नमो महावदन्नाय कृष्णप्रेम प्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्ण चैतन्य नाम्ने गौरतिसे नमः। कनकजलदगात्रौ नीलसनाब्जनेत्रौ मृगमदबडभारौ मालती कुन्दमालौ तरलतरुणवेशौ नीलपीताम्बरेशौ स्मरणीभृतनिकुञ्जे राधिका कृष्णचन्द्रौ। हा देवी काकु भर्गद्गदयाद्वाचा याचे निपत्तभोगी दण्डवतौडुभटार्ति अस्य प्रसादमबुधस्य जनस्य कृत्वा गान्धर्विके निजगणे गणनां विधेहि। अङ्गसमलिमच्छटाविरवितो मन्दीकृतेन्दीवरम् जाड्डं जागुडरोचिषां विदधतं पट्टाम्बरस्य श्रिया वृन्दारण्यनिवासिनं हृदिलसद्धामाभिरामोदरम् राधास्कन्दनिवेशितोज्ज्वलभुजं ध्यायेमि दामोदरम्। भक्ताविहीना अपराधलक्ष्यै चित्वाश्च कामादितरङ्गमध्ये कृपामयि त्वां शरणं प्रपन्ना वृन्दे नुमस्ते चरणारविन्दं वृन्दे नुमस्ते चरणारविन्दम्। श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। ऑल टुगेदर हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। First of all, I pay my humble obeisances unto the lotus feet of my Paramaradha Guru Pad Padma, Om Vishnupad Paramhamsa Swami Ashtotara Sata Sri Srimad Bhaktivedanta Srila Vaman Goswami Maharaj and Om Vishnupad Paramhamsa Swami Ashtotara Sata Sripad Bhaktivedanta Srila Narayan Goswami Maharaj. I pay my humble obeisances unto the lotus feet of my spiritual grandsire, Nitya Lila Pravishtam Vishnupad, Srimad Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj, and Nitya Lila Pravishtam Vishnupad, Srimad Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj, and all Gaudiya Guru Parampara. I convey my Dandavat Pranam who assembled here and welcome all guests who present today to encourage me to speak some Hari Katha, the glory of Srila Gurudeva, headed by my uncles and aunties. Today is Srila Gurudeva Vyasa Puja, means appearance day. Gurudeva is to say, today is my Vyasa Puja. What is the significance of my Vyasa Puja? In Kali Yuga, in this world, who first started Vyasa Puja, where and when? I will discuss all these points. And it mentioned in the scripture, Krishna Bhakte, Krishna Gun Sakali Sanchare. The qualities of Krishna all infused in Krishna's pure devotee's heart. So my question is here, Krishna is a thief. Is Gurudeva also a thief? Yeah. Otherwise, how it infused in his pure devotee's heart? I will discuss all this subject, but first I am requesting my uncles like Nirgun Prabhu, Gopavinda Pal Prabhu, Mahi Bharat Prabhu, Indradev Prabhu, they will speak little, then I continue.
Om Ajnanatimandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So maybe I'll begin with maybe some history for those of you who have come subsequently over the years. I personally had contact with Srila Gurudeva in, I think, 1988 because I was a message carrier. So carrying messages from US to Keshavji Gaudiya Math in Mathura. And I think, anyway, because I was going to India regularly at that time, maybe 2-3 times every year, so a friend asked me to transfer funds and messages. So, on one of those trips, I remember Sripad Narayan Maharaj speaking on, I can't remember if there was any book, but the topic was Sthai Bhav, Vibhav, Anubhav, Sanchari Bhav, Sattvic Bhav. And these were subjects that I had sort of torn my hair out over the years and tried to figure out reading an old copy of Jaiva Dharma and really wasn't able to make heads or tails of it. And here was someone articulating a topic that I considered to be so far over my head that I couldn't even open my mouth on the topic. He was discussing it like it was normal for his thought process. So easy to discuss these things, like they were just flowing off his tongue effortlessly. So maybe one of my first impressions was, oh, this is someone who knows everything. I thought to myself, I could ask him any question I could come up with, he'll know the answer. Automatically, that impression struck me. Then over the years in the 90s, he elected to come to the Western world. And I lived at the time in Central California in a place called Badger, sometimes known as New Braj. And there was actually, because at that, well, I won't get into the reasoning, but at that time there was some controversy. Oh, here's someone from India, he's supposed to be an advanced devotees, but should we entertain the possibility of having him come here? That's the way devotees thought at the time. No thought just for sadhu sangha, no thought just to be hospitable to a traveling preacher, nothing. So we had meeting upon meeting upon meeting. And so many votes. Yes, he should come. No, he shouldn't come. Yes, he should speak in the temple. He should come, but he shouldn't speak at the temple. I'll come, but I won't listen. Or I'll help. I'll cook. I'll work in the kitchen, but I won't come to Hari Katha. So this was just to give you an impression of the era, mid-90s, yeah. And then I remember the first night that he spoke. I don't remember exactly where he was speaking from, but he was speaking about Vrindavan. It was like Sukadeva Goswami's description of the autumn and rainy seasons in Vrindavan. An entire chapter is dedicated to a beautiful, beautiful description of Braj. But as Srila Narayan Maharaj was speaking about this particular topic, there was a distinct sense, and I don't get this about many people, a distinct sense. He's speaking from first-person, first-hand experience. Not only that, he's experiencing it now as he speaks it. And I'm sort of a pessimist. It's hard for me to think like that about someone. But immediately, that impression came across loud and clear. So, I mean, you could have dropped a ton of bricks on my head and I wouldn't have blinked listening to this first lecture in Badger. Then Badger, this place in the mountain, the Sierras in California, sort of became a launching pad for Srila Gurudev's preaching, which from that point spread all over the world. So, of course, I could speak so many wonderful things, but I do have some distinct memories. A guru is strong, like a thunderbolt, but also very soft, like a rose. In this case, I remember some significant thundering. One of my trips to Mathura, I had the gall to ask a question. And I thought, this is the best question. I love to ask this question, and he will love to answer this question, because it's a deep question. And after I asked the question, the first words out of his mouth, "Why you ask such question?" And from that point on, there was about 3 or 4 minutes, you know the situation where you try to say something, but you're just cut. And I go, "But!" And he would go on with, go on with the monologue. And I'd say, "But!" Monologue. "But!" Stopped. Not even one word. For 5 minutes, I couldn't say anything. Later, I asked him, I said, was this a bad question? And he just laughed. Because I think, he wanted, anyway, for one reason or another, I was put in my place. What else like that? So many wonderful things about... One time I mentioned to Srila Gurudeva, we were traveling in, I think, Australia. You remember, you were there. Yeah. And so I asked, so he was talking about Braj. And he said, there in Braj, there's Krishna nourishing everything. And I didn't know he said nourishing. I thought he said Nrshringa. So I said, but Srila Narayan Maharaj, why is Nrshringa in Vrindavan? And so he looked at Madhava Maharaj, then he made one of those gestures to me. He didn't deign to even look at me. You know? It was just sort of like this. Who is this man? Who is he? What's he doing here? Also another time I said, we had just been in LA, and he had given some story about Astavakra Muni. So I said, oh, this is important. Gurudeva took the time to talk about that. Then we went to Alachua, Florida. And so he asked a question about to get some feedback about some devotee, and he wanted some high answer, like something from Srila Rupa Goswami or something, Sanatana Goswami, something about. And I said, oh, I know. What do they call it? Utsahamai. I know everything. Astavakra Muni. And again he turned to Maharaj. He said, who are these people who come to me, who follow me? One time he asked me, he said, this was during Navadvip Parikrama, and he said, I want you to go to, then his name was Govinda Bhakta, Ashram Maharaj, and Urukram, means Padmanabh Maharaj. He said, I want you to get these other two men, and I want you to stay close to me throughout the entire parikrama. Every day, wherever we go, you have to be there because I want you to speak something. So, but the crowds were so thick around him that the three of us couldn't get close. Nevertheless, when the crowd would settle down, he'd pick us out, like way back in the crowd, and he'd go. So to get from where we were to where he was, we had to like step on Bengalis' heads and shoulders and feet and legs, and all these people are billions of times more advanced than I'll ever be. But we were like crushing them as we walked toward the front on his order. And then when we got to the front, three of us, having offended everybody in the crowd, he went, you didn't ask what that, you just, he had a unique quality. He didn't have to speak. Just a real small little gesture, sometimes even just a movement, and people would move. People knew exactly what to do, except for me, of course. Anyway, sit. And we sat, and he didn't call on us the whole time. Every day he did this. 5 days building up to Gaur Purnima of us crushing everyone in the crowd and committing aparads right and left. So, yeah, I'll just finish by saying that, like we were talking the other day, somewhere, maybe Jayadev's house, about what comes first, Sukriti or Guru Nishta or Sadhu Sangha. A good verse is Sadhu Sangha Nam Kirtan Bhagavat Shravane Mathuravas Shri Murtira Shraddhaya Sevane. After Srila Rupa Goswami gives 59 angas of bhakti, he stresses 5 especially. And why does Sadhu Sangha come first in these 5 special verses? Because you can't get Nam Kirtan anywhere but from Sadhu. You can't get Srimad Bhagavatam anywhere from sadhu. You can't get any of the other 4 or any of the previous 59 Bhakti Angas anywhere else. They don't come from anywhere else. It's like the material world is an island. And there's no transit in between the island of the material world and the spiritual world unless Vaishnava comes to this world. Everything is predicated on that. Krishna Bhakti Janma Mula Hoy Sadhu Sangha Krishna Prem Janme Teno Puna Mukhya Anga. Means that the very birth of bhakti, the origin of bhakti, the root of bhakti, from which everything else in bhakti comes, is sadhu sangha. And even when a devotee is advanced to the stage of prem bhakti, still the source of that bhakti he recognizes as sadhu sangha. Contagious. Bhaktya sanjataya bhaktya, Prabhupada Rishi in the 11th canto says that this verse usually means that, can be translated that from sadhan bhakti only can you get rag bhakti. But it can also be seen that bhakti is in the heart of Vaishnavas only. And if you want it, you have to go there to get it, to the Vaishnava, because that's the only place that it can be had. I think mainly, maybe most importantly, I'll give one last verse because it seems so typical of Srila Gurudeva. 9th verse in Gopi Gita. Oh, Tava Katam Ritam Tapta Jivanam Kavibiriditam Kalmasapaham Sri Madatatam Shravana Mangalam Sri Madatatam Bhuvigranantiye Buridajana. Not only did the gopis in their greatest or highest need, this was the kind of verse that they spoke. In the moment of greatest aspiration and need, this came. The verse means that just to be brief, that person who gives Harikatha, he purifies the entire world by that auspicious speaking. And ultimately, he's called Burida. Burida means the kindest person that you'll ever meet. There's no more kindness that could possibly be shown by one person to another. Burida. Like when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu rested during Rath Yatra, Prataparudra Maharaj came to the place where he was. After so long, he couldn't meet Sri Chaitanya. But he was given a way to do that. Take your crown off, take all your kingly garb off, and put on the dress of a humble Vaishnava. And go to Sri Chaitanya in that mood. So when the king came, he began chanting these verses of Gopi Gita, the gopis' deepest yearning. When he got to this 9th verse, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who had been resting with his eyes closed, jumped up, straight up, erect. And without any formality or anything, he embraced the king, who he wouldn't even talk to for years prior. And he said, "You are Burida, you are Burida, you're the one who's giving everything to me." So just to give an impression of how important this verse and the people who give Harikatha to the world. Srila Gurudeva's Harikatha, as I said a moment ago, was contagious. Anyone in the last story. Also in Navadvip during Parikrama, he spoke at Nrsimhapalli. Big hall, huge hall. And when others spoke before him, other Vaishnavas were there. And then, anyway, so much speaking. And there was so much talk going on, cross talk and so much noise. But when Gurudev got up to talk, you could hear a pin drop. So afterwards he came to me and he said, "Did you see what I did?" I said, "I'm not quite sure. You did something wonderful with your Hari Katha." He said, "No. Before I spoke, no one was listening. Everyone was talking over the speaker. But when I spoke, you could hear a pin drop." So his Hari Katha was like contagious. And when he began to speak, everyone dropped everything else and listened. And that contagion spread all over the whole world. Thank you.
Very nice. Om Agena Timirandasya Genangana Salakaya Chakshurum Militamena Tasma Shri Gurave Namaha. All glories to Srila Gurudeva and all glories to Srila Prabhupada and the whole Guru Varga. What can we say? We feel most fortunate to have come in contact with such a great personality. And I always remember Gurudev would repeat a couple stories. Everything comes through Guru Seva. All perfections, our advancement and everything comes by Guru Seva. And there's different types of seva. Also there's seva where one is like in a dharmic mood, out of duty, one is doing his service. But then sometimes, if one can adopt this special seva called Vishramba Seva, this seva is done with extra love. I don't know how to give an example. It's sort of like, say you love your parents, and one son, he is doing service because he ought to do it. He's dharmic. He's doing it because he ought to do it. And he does it nicely. Another one does that, but he loves his parents so much that he just is excited. It exhilarates his seva to an excited thing. Or like a man and a woman in love in this world, you may be doing some work, but you're always thinking like that. So this is the kind of Vishramba Seva to Gurudev, and this brings very quick results. And also to Krishna, this kind of Seva. So that's very fortunate. Srila Gurudev used to give a couple examples of some disciples and their seva being extraordinary. And one was a disciple of Damya Rishi. I believe this one was the one that he came and joined the Math. This is going to be another era, not like in today's, they practice austerities we cannot practice. So when this seva came to join the Math, in those days you grew gardens and cut firewood for your Gurudev when you entered the ashram and studied scriptures like this. And so this sadhak wanted to join, and he said, yes, you should go take care of the cows. And Gurudev said he never told him to eat anything. He never gave him any instruction to eat, so he was supposed to just fast. But after a while he saw he was getting some fat, and so a little bit. And so Gurudev asked him, where is he, how are you getting food? He says, oh, after the cows drink the milk, I drink a little too. And in this way, he says, oh no, don't do it. Don't do it. No, don't do it. You're not supposed to eat nothing. So in this way, later, he's still maintaining his body weight somehow. And so he asked him, and he says, oh, how are you maintaining yourself? Are you drinking that milk from the cow? No. He says, but sometimes after the calves drink, there's foam on their mouth, and I've been taking that and eating it. And that way, I've been maintaining myself. And he says, oh no, don't do it. I didn't tell you to eat anything. And so, after a while, he became hungry, and he had been in the ashram a while and had learned so many things from his Gurudev. And after a while, he became hungry, and there was some plant, like a milkweed plant, that's actually poisonous, and he saw the milk coming out of this milkweed, and so he began eating it and immediately became blind and fell into a well. And so after a while, Gurudev's went out looking for him and couldn't find him, and they looked and they finally found him crying in this well. They got him out of the well and they brought him up, and first Gurudev told him, Dhamma Rishi told him to chant that mantra to the Ashwini Kumars that I taught you, because he became blind by taking the milkweed. So he chanted that mantra and immediately he was not blind anymore. And then the Gurudev had been so pleased with him that he put his hand on his head. And when he put his hand on his head, all the Vedas and all perfections came into this person. So the example is that through our Gurudev, he's like he has a switch to the powerhouse. He has a switch to Krishna. He has a switch to this Bhav Bhakti that we're all practicing to get. And by pleasing him, when he sees that everything is right, then he will get that, you know. I mean, there's so many tests. I've heard so many funny tests. One devotee went to Gurudev. He was going to join the moth, Gurudev was in Mathura, and he was trying to move into the moth. And he was walking by Gurudev's room one day, and Gurudev said, "Come in here." He says, "Could you move he was sitting by his table. He says, "Could you bring the table a little closer to me?" So he moves it a little closer, and Gurudev says, "A little back, please, a little further back." And then he says, "No, a little forward." And then a little back. And then finally he just put up his hands and just like, what is it? What are you doing to me? And Gurudev says, "Oh, bogus, get out of here." Oh, bogus, go. So these are like tests, you know. There's so many tests. And we're very attached to Gurudev. He's like, if we were reading, like Shukadeva Goswami can enter the hearts of all. This is the quality of these Nitya Siddhas. They are omniscient, and they are like the Lord, and they can ride along in your heart with the Lord. They know everything about you and everything about everybody. It is amazing, and there's no limit to their greatness. And so I was thinking of some story. Gopal was speaking, and one time at Manasaganga, there's crowds there, and I was kind of up, I'd say at least like 400 or 500 feet from Gurudev, and they're just solid crowds all the way down where they're pouring milk on Giriraj down there. And I'm standing there, and when I got there, Gurudev, he's putting milk on Giriraj, and I'm going, oh, this is a great time to be here to watch him do this. And Gurudev all of a sudden looks up and he starts looking all over, and he looks at me, I'm so far away, it's ridiculous. And he says, "Come here." And I looked at the crowd, they were shoulder to shoulder like they are in India, almost impossible. And I thought, don't even think about how you're going to get up there, just go. And then out of the crowd, a big man pulls up, he says, "Do you want to go up there?" And I said, "Yeah." And he just goes straight right through the whole crowd. Only Indians know how to do this. And I know when they push, they don't get angry. They just kind of push. It's just kind of part of their culture. And I realized, don't get attached. Just kind of move through and do what you can. But anyway, so he was always like that, and he knew what you were thinking. Remember one time in our room in Badger, Madhava Maharaja and other very Brahminical persons were sitting in there, and I walked in, and I just kind of glanced at all of them, and I thought, you know, you're just not one of them. These are all Brahmins. They're all Brahminical. They're all they're like that. And Gurudev grabs me by the hand, pulls me down to sit with him, and he says, "No, you're not, but you're very strong." But he's like that. He'd always know your mind and know what you're thinking, and always our well-wisher. And sometimes, yes, he'll give you the thunderbolt, and that's his mercy also. One time, though, he was chastising very severely in Vrindavan some of his brahmacharis, and he always allowed me to go in his room, I just like a mouse, I just hang out and watch him. And he looked at me and says, "If I did that to you, you would just leave." And I said, "I probably would." And I realized, you know, that this my my surrender couldn't compare to these other persons who will take. Of course, they're all very much younger too. And I remember when I was a little younger, you can take more from your Gurudev. You can take more chastisement and stuff. But anyway, all his pastimes were super excellent. He could see he had all the wonderful qualities of the demigods. There was no limit. I remember one thing, just like with Srila Prabhupada, in any assembly, there was no one in the assembly that could even come close. He was so great personality, such a great personality. And Gurudev mentioned so many wonderful things to us, and he also told us that our Gurudev should be Siddha. If the Guru is not Siddha, there's every chance a disciple may lose faith. But I know that once the pure devotee leaves, we should stay with our God brothers who are advanced in following, and this is also the proper thing to do. With that, I'll leave it. Thank you.
I defer to you, Maharaj. Ajnanatimandasya jananjana shlakaya chakshurvishamyena tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. There are unlimited stories, interactions, personal, that everyone has shared a personal love of Srila Gurudev. But for 1 minute, I'd like to speak something about his books. Srila Gurudev has given a voluminous amount of Vaishnava Granthas. So sweet, so deep, so wonderful, taking it to a level that most Vaishnavas are afraid to go into the kunjas, the nikunjas of Vrindavan, and explaining the glories and the Leela of Srimati Radhika and Krishna. He's especially given us very intimate and deep books like Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti's Chamaka Chandrika, full of 4 intimate stories of laughter, hope, love, and invitation. So Srila Gurudev has given these books to us with the purpose of aspiring us to desire these things. It is stated that Krishna's greatest joy is to fulfill the desires of his devotees. So he is implanted into our hearts by these wonderful, deep narrations that we are teeny, personal maidservants of Srimati Radharani. I am always very astonished how Srila Prabhupada first gave us, the first song I learned was the Tulsi prayer, Seva Adi Kada Diye Kada Nija Dasi. And although we would chant this twice a day, I have no clue. But by the mercy of Srila Gurudev, he has expertly cleared up what is the goal of life, how we can set this exclusively into our hearts. And by the method of hearing, chanting, and remembering, and the other processes, gradually we can obtain that destination. He would always say, do not be doubtful that these things are obtainable. They are obtainable. And by this process, we will obtain our goal.
I'm only speaking because Madhava Maharaj ordered me to speak. I'm too shy to talk in public. And
We are
I don't have
not
much to
public.
say.
We are not public. We are your god brother, god sister, and nephew, and it's
Even worse.
Not shy. Not even a little bit shy.
Even worse. These people just want to see me suffer. Anyways, anything anyone can say about Gurudev will fall short, obviously, by definition. But I haven't met him. I was living in Santa Cruz. We lived there with Gopa for a while, and at one point he moved to Bajor, like he was saying, and he came back and he told me, I want you to come and meet this very advanced Vaishnava, Srila Narayana Maharaj. And I said, no, I just, I don't want to meet anybody else anymore. The world is full of gurus and, they're all cheaters and, I'm happy with what I learned from Srila Prabhupada and remembering him, blah, blah, blah. But he said, I'm not asking you. You're coming to meet, Srila Gurudeva. So anyways, the details of the meeting are very special. I don't want to say them right now, but the love and affection, that's always, every time that I think of Gurudev, the love and affection, and I'm not talking mundane love and affection, is like Nirguna and Mahibharata were saying, is a personality that is divine. The love and affection that he emanates, the Prabhupada emanated, is not of this world. And you feel at home, you feel with the dearest, oldest friend that you ever had. It's someone that is nothing but your well-wisher, nothing. Like Gopa and everybody is saying, even when he chastises you, this person is chastising me for my own good. Not even your own father will chastise you like he did, and so on. Anyways, that love and affection, I think everybody, is no way that anyone that even met him, everybody that even glanced upon him didn't feel this. And it's the greatest gift, because it's what it gives us faith and what it keeps us going, just seeing such a personality has come to help us. And again, I didn't want to take much time. It's plenty of devotees here, Shira. Now you have so many devotees that need to speak. So, among you, Miranda, Sherry,
Timrandasya Gananjana Shayakala Chakshur Militanyana Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Well, actually I just came to honor Srila Gurudeva, and I realizing that he was my best friend, that I've never had anybody that loved me like he did. And of course my Gurudev, my Diksha Gurudev, but the relationship was different. And he taught me that, how it was different. So there's so many anecdotes. He became part of our family. We have maybe probably 5 of our grandchildren taking first grains from Srila Gurudeva. Come to our house and like that. One time, I remember here in Hilo, he said, look, so many people were coming. And he said, actually, Guru finds you. So I guess he did. He said, we're like, there was one of the songs that we sing, it was up in the mountains down by the sea. It's just so easy to see Krishna's everywhere. So I think he liked that, but he was like quoting it afterwards, like, how, so far in the middle of nowhere, we've got disciples of Srila Prabhupada. And he cares so much about us. He cares so much about Srila Prabhupada. He was like a giver. So he had this relationship developed, and so I can. Of course, there is like, what is it? I think it's there's a famous devotee that when he sees the grandeur of the splendor of what Govardhan is, and he's looking up, he sees that his hat falls off. So yeah, there is like all that in Guru. And for his disciples, there's no one like that. It's like Mount Meru, and the biggest, tallest mountain in the universe. It should be in awe and reverence, our relationship. But as a Shiksha Guru, he opened up as a friend, so I had to admit that. It's been really tough, 3 years that not having him and always remembering him because of little things he had done around in my family and how it transformed it, So of course it's a great day of gratitude towards him. Well, of course, all these qualities have been described by you all. He encompasses them as a pure devotee. They're given. But it's like that, so today I just want to honor him and again thank you so much for him coming. I just feel like he's, after 3 years, this lamentation and like that, and I've been now coming out of like being very ill and reevaluating things in my life, what's important, what am I doing? Our dear friends, they part, but it's not the end, before just, would have been like, oh, I'm thinking of the dark, I'm thinking of the finite, and I'm just engrossed in this body and lamenting, realizing that, hey, wait a minute, all this treasure that Srila Prabhupada gave us, and then Gurudeva even put a torchlight on it, in clearing up things and actually bringing us to the path of pure bhakti and where it leads. So there's so much hope that he brought to my life, and our lives, I think. So thank you again, Hare Krishna.
Om Gyanajamrandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshu Urmilitam Yen Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Sripad Maharaj here asks Gurudeva, Vaishnava has the same quality as Krishna? Is he thief? Most definitely. Gurudeva has stolen my heart and everybody's heart. And he captured us very easily and put our hearts in his pocket. So even before I met him, Pran Kishore, Prabhu was telling me so many glories of him, and Tirtha Pradap Prabhu also, and Padmanabha Maharaj, before he came to the West in 1996. And I even wrote him one letter. Anyway, somehow or other, I wanted to have a special relationship with Srila Prabhupada, my Diksha Guru, and I wasn't even certain if it was real sometimes. I had some doubt. But then all of that, all my desires were fulfilled by my Shiksha Guru, my Srila Gurudeva. So after meeting him in 1997, the second year that he came to Badger, I only had 3 days with him. And then I had to leave a little bit early, and I said to Gurudev, I have to leave now, but what you've given me, I never want to forget it, and I don't want to lose your association, how you've given me. And he turned to me and he put his 2 hands on my shoulders like this. And he looked deep into my eyes and he told me, I will never forget you. I will come to your house. I was so blown away. And I thought, well, that's a very nice thing to say. Amazing. I was completely overwhelmed. And then, anyway, he came the next year. He came to my house. Inconceivable. He came 4 times to Maui. And even one time he said, I have come here only for Chiranjan Prabhu. He would say it like that. And I was like, inconceivable. The mercy, he's reaching down to such a wretched creature as me. But then, when we were up at Rupa Manohar's house, after darshan, everybody was walking out, prasad was distributed, and Gurudev leaned to me. I saw Gurudev, so I came nearby Gurudev, and he leaned to me and he said, I want you to know I came to Hawaii only for you. And I said, directly, he told me. And I I can't fathom the compassion of this person. I cannot. But one thing I wanted to share, very mystical. Fast forward some years later, and I was planning to move to Oregon, and I was in great anxiety about it because it was I was in anxiety. So from 1997, when he came to Camp Bikusa, he told Samapriya, I will come to you in your dreams and I will help you. And from that very night, he was doing so. Because she's very special. So, Gurudeva came to her in one dream where he was trying to tell me to remember one verse in Bhagavad Gita. And he was saying, and I tried to say it, and he said, no, not that one, another. I'm trying. So finally he said the verse, and then the dream was finished, and she told me about it, and it was very amazing. So then we moved, and everything, and we came to the New Pracha Festival, and then we had one darshan with Gurudev, with only one other girl, just myself, Shamapriya, was Vishnu there? And it was very, very sweet, very, very intimate, wonderful. And Shamapriya says, Gurudev, in that dream, you told me one verse, and I don't remember what it was. And Gurudev says, oh, duke svana vigna mana, suke vikata mana, Vitaraga, Vaya Kroda, Stitadira Muna Uchite. That one who is not disturbed in happiness and distress, who is free from attachment, fear, and anger. This is Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, verse 56. Anyway, this person, he is known as a Stitadir Muni, undisturbed sage. And I was like, wow. Without no hesitation. Gurudev, so he's helping us on so many levels. And also, one time he told me, like it was the 4th year in Maui, he came, and I said, Gurudev, this year, you've come to my house 3 years in a row, so mercifully, but this year the schedule will not allow it. I said, Gurudev, will you please come in my heart? And Gurudev immediately said, he leaned to me and he said, yes, if you think of me and I will be in your heart and I will help you. And the way he said it was so like, no doubt whatsoever. So, all glories to Srila Gurudeva.
We'll speak for Chandrika Di or Jagadhapti Di?
No, tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Krishna. Let my humble obeisances. The first time I met Srila Gurudeva, I was dragged there by Vrindavan Vilasini. It was in Los Angeles. And I was in the LA community, and they didn't seem too pleased with him. So she took me there. I think Madhava Maharaja was also there. In Marina Del Rey, you had some rooms or something. And I just took one look at him, and he's so beautiful. And I just melted looking at him. And I said, Srila Narayan Maharaj, will you be my spiritual uncle? And he started chuckling at that. So I feel like that. He's my spiritual uncle. he's always tried, and he always does, and he still is present and assisting me in my very slow path. Hare Krishna.
Any of my uncle or aunties here? Oh.
I'm speechless. I can't find words good enough to describe Srila Gurudeva. I did write a song. I actually wrote a poem for him the first time he stayed at our house, and Madhava Maharaja and Brajanath read it first and okayed it, and then they let me read it to him. It was, I don't remember what year, but it was actually Vyasa Puja, his birthday day, but the festival for his birthday was the next day, so he just stayed at our house on that day. And I went into the room, his room, and I read the poem to him on my knees in front of him. And then later on I made it into a song. So we were in Jagannath Puri and staying at his house, and he came in from a walk and I sang the song for him. And then he went into his room and was lying down, and I came into the room and he looked very weak and tired, and suddenly he jumped up into the sky and he says, "Tonight I want you to sing Guru in the Sky with Blue Eyes." So I sang the song for him several times after that. And I was hoping to sing that tonight.
This is one of the songs actually we want to compile in an album for Gurudeva. And in honor of him, I'm kind of one of the tag is like songs from the North Shore, because we used to sneak around Madhava Maharaj and go up to his room. He was waiting for us to serenade him. So that was the biggest achievement, I think, for musician, singer career and songwriter. But we did that many times, even during the day, where he actually read everything we ever wrote and whatever attorney wrote, and he, made critical remarks for us to. Because I want you to, if you sing these songs, that the highest sadhu can hear it, that the siddhanta will be perfect. So we always, whatever we wrote to Gurudev, he was the first one to see him. So we're trying to do that. We're in the process of, we just started to kind of sketch the songs and put them together. So this is one of them.
Just coming.
No, just coming now. There it is.
Are there two?
It's not a